The Thamud is the name of an ancient civilization in Hejaz known from the 1st millennium BC to near the time of Muhammad. The Thamud civilization was located in the north of the peninsula, although they are thought to have originated in southern Arabia. Arabic tradition has them moving north to settle on the slopes of Mount Atlab near Madain Salah. Numerous Thamudist rock writings and pictures have been found on Mount Atlab and throughout central Arabia. History. The oldest known reference to Thamud is a 715 BC inscription of the Assyrian king Sargon II, which mentions them as being among the people of eastern and central Arabia subjugated by the Assyrians, but they were living very early, even before Abraham. When we compare the family tree of prophets, their ancestors were Iram and Ahaz. They are referred to as Thamudari in the writings of Aristo of Chios, Ptolemy, and Pliny. The Quran mentions Thamud in Surah Al-Araf in the context of several prophets who warned their people of coming judgment. Verse 74 says of Thamud, "And remember when he made you successors after Ad and settled you in the land, and you take for yourselves palaces from its plains and carve from the mountains homes." This could refer to the rock-cut tombs of Madain Salah in the Quran. Aad and Thamud are generally mentioned together as a matter of context. The verses advise Thamud to take warning from the destruction of Aad. To the Thamud people, their brother Saleh, he said, "O my people, worship Allah. You have no other deity other than Him. There has come to you clear evidence from your Lord. This is the she-camel of God sent to you as a sign. So leave her to eat within God's land, and do not touch her with harm, lest there seize you a painful punishment. And remember when he made you successors after Ad and settled you in the land, and you take for yourselves palaces from its plains and carve from the mountains homes. Then remember the favors of God and do not commit abuse on the earth, spreading corruption." Quran, Surah 7. Ayat 73-74. This verse suggests some kind of relationship between Aad and Thamud, and Aad may even have been a part of Thamud's history and culture, just as Nuh's people were seen as the ancestors of Aad. It seems Aad were seen in a similar relation to Thamud. The Aad were a people living in southern Arabia. Some remains of Thamud were found in the region where Aad had lived, especially around the region where capital city of the Hadramites, the descendants of Aad, stood. A bit further on from the passage quoted above, the Quran says, "So they hamstrung the she-camel, and were insolent toward the command of their Lord, and said, O Saleh, bring us what you promise us, if you should be of the messengers." So the earthquake seized them, and they became within their home, fallen prone. Quran, Surah 7, Ayat 77-78. In Surah Al-Qamar it says, "Indeed, we sent upon them one shriek, and they became like the dry twig fragments of an pen." Historians. The historian Ali ibn al-Attiyah mentions the Thamud in his book The Complete History Composed California, 1231. Ibn Khaldun, historian and scholar. Ibn Khaldun also mentions the Thamud several times in his universal history Al-Kitabu al-Abar, written in the late 14th century, but only in passing, seldom giving much information. This can be illustrated by what happened among the nations. When the royal authority of Ad was wiped out, the brethren, the Thamud, took over. They were succeeded, in turn, by their brethren, the Amalekites. The Amalekites were succeeded by their brethren, the Himyar. The Himyar were succeeded by their brethren, the Tubas, who belonged to the Himyar. They, likewise, were succeeded by the Adwa. 130. Then, the Muda came to power. Muqaddimah, Chapter 2. The Yemen, Al-Bahrain, Oman, and the Jazirah have long been in Arab possession, but for thousands of years, the rule of these areas has belonged to different nations in succession. They also founded cities and towns and promoted the development of sedentary culture and luxury to the highest degree. Among such nations were the Ad and the Thamud, the Amalekites and the Himyar after them, the Tubas, and the other South Arabian rulers. There was a long period of royal authority and sedentary culture. The coloring of established itself firmly. The crafts became abundant and firmly rooted. They were not wiped out simultaneously with dynasty, as we have stated. They have remained and have always renewed themselves down to this time, and they have become the specialty of that area. Such crafts are embroidered fabrics, striped cloth, and finely woven garments and silks. Muqaddimah Chapter 5 Script. A script graphically similar to the Semitic alphabet has been found in southern Arabia and up throughout the Hejaz. The script was first identified in a region in north-central Yemen that is known as Thamud, which is bound to the north by the Rub al-Khali, to the south by the Hadramaut and to the west by Shabwa. The script was named after the place where it was first discovered, not for the people. Inscriptions in Thamudis come mostly from northern Saudi Arabia, but can be found throughout the Arabian Peninsula. Identity. Very little information is known about the identity or the nationality of Thamud, but they are referred to as Arabs in the records of the Greek historian Diodorus Siculus. The title and description given by Photius to Thamud indicates that they had a status similar to Kidarites who have been identified as Arabs. In 2003, Professor Jan Rietso in a research in his book The Arabs in Antiquity concluded that Thamudis people were Arabs. Use of the name. After the disappearance of the original people of Thamud, Robert Hoyland suggested that their name was subsequently adopted by other new groups that inhabited the region of Madain Salah. This suggestion is supported by Abdullah ibn Umar and ibn Kathir, who report that people called the region of Thamud al-Hijr, while they called the province of Madain Salah Ardh Thamud, the land of Thamud, and Beit Thamud, the house of Thamud. The conclusion that can be taken from the evidences above is that the term Thamud wasn't applied to the groups that lived in Madain Salah such as Lithianites and Nabateans, but rather to the region itself. According to classical Arabic sources, it's agreed upon that the only remaining group of the native people of Thamud are the tribe of Banu Thaqif, which inhabited the city of Taif south of Mecca. Disappearance.